You know, most contractors like me own at least one, if not multiple, portable generators that they use on their job sites all the time. But on the build show today, we're going to show you how you can use a portable generator like this one to actually power your house in case of an outage. Today's build show is sponsored by Champion Generators. Let's get going. Hey guys, in the build show today, we're going to show you how this tool that almost all contractors own can be a big part of your disaster readiness kit by just doing a couple simple steps to your house. I'm here with Tim Hill, and we're actually at Tim's house, and we're going to be talking today about how you can hook a generator like this, a portable generator, to actually run a good portion of your house. Now, Tim, can you think of a couple scenarios where you might want to use a generator like this to power up your house?
Well, we had during a hurricane a couple of years ago, almost 3 days without power here in this neighborhood. And we were able to power the portion of our house that we needed to, refrigeration, freezers, lights, some plugs, easily with the generator that we had in backup.
Man, that's pretty nice. Now, most people, when they think of this, they think, well, they're just gonna put it in the yard, they're gonna run a cord through the window or through the door, and they're gonna plug a couple things up. But that's not what we're talking about here, right, Tim?
If you have the time and the money, you can actually set your home up to transfer power coming from the generator instead of the city power source that has gone out in any kind of outage.
Yeah, that's great.
It allows you to run those appliances that you need to for however long the power is out.
Now, this portable generator, Tim, is not a massive one, though. Sometimes for some of our houses, we put in these big backup generators that can literally power the whole house. That's not the case here. How much of your house could you power with a generator like this?
With a portable generator, you'll be able to run several circuits of lights or plugs or a refrigerator and a freezer, those things critical that you don't want to be without power for any extended of time.
Yeah, and also beyond that, Tim, you could run your furnace, let's say. So if it's wintertime, it's 10 degrees out, if you have a gas furnace or a propane furnace, your circuit is not one that you can unplug your furnace and run a cord out to a generator outside. But this, on the other hand, can power it. So now the blower, everything's going to fire up. Your house is going to be nice and warm in the case of a winter outage, right?
That's right. If it's connected properly, you can run the generator power through the house distribution systems, the panels, as long as you understand which ones you need to leave off in that situation and which ones you're allowed to turn on to not overstress the generator or overrate the generator by using too much power.
Yeah, so for instance, at your house, you're not going to be able to run your 220 ovens, let's say. You're not going to be able to run your AC system, your compressors on your air conditioner, those types of things. But you're certainly going to be able to run your main lights, like you mentioned, your freezer, your refrigerator. All those things are going to be good shape for several days running off a portable generator like this.
That's right.
So walk me through the process, Tim. What do you need to do to actually put the power from the generator to the house?
Well, a licensed electrician can come and install a transfer switch which disconnects the house from the city power incoming and transfers it to an inlet that will allow you to plug the generator into the whole house.
Got it.
So that it sets up a situation where you're never receiving or backfeeding power in the improper way.
Yes, because if you were just to plug this in somewhere without that transfer switch, the power goes on, you could kill a linesman, right? That's called backfeeding.
That's right.
And that's a big deal.
That's right.
So what does this cost, and what would it take to actually put that transfer switch in and the plug and all those things that we need?
Well, for the electrical time, it's probably a full 8-hour day for a licensed electrician.
Okay.
For the parts, it's $150 to $250 for transfer switch, for a twist lock inlet, and for any accessory connections that you might need for conduit and wire.
And it's also going to depend probably, Tim, on the way your panel's wired, right? Because if you have a mix of 110 and 220 in one panel box, it's going to be a little harder. You might actually need to do a separate panel box for that feed. Is that right?
Right. There are commercially sold transfer panels that will make it easier to transfer specific circuits when you actually are transferring to generator power. If you're fortunate, you may have a particular panel in your home that only feeds those items that you want to during an outage, that makes it easy to transfer over and not feed circuits that would be dangerous or not necessary.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now walk me through the process. The power goes out, let's say. We wake up in the middle of the night, the lights are off. What do we do to get the house up again?
Well, you bring out your generator. Always use a generator outside. You never want to use one in a garage or in an enclosed space.
Yep.
That's obvious.
Yeah, safety 101. I'll put an OSHA fact sheet, by the way, when it comes to safety in the link in the description. So make sure you read this before you do that.
That's right. Then from the generator, you'll have a pigtail, a power cord of some type that actually plugs into the generator and then plugs into the house where the power inlet is set up underneath the transfer switch.
Okay.
Always remember to plug that cord in first on both ends before you transfer any power or start the generator.
Okay, so the first step is we're going to plug the generator into the house. The generator's off now. The transfer switch is still on city power now too, right?
That's correct.
Then we're going to fire up the generator, and then we're going to hit the transfer switch.
That's correct. And that in that sequence, hook up the cord first, start the generator, then transfer the power.
And on your inside panel, you may have some of your switches already labeled, hey, these are my emergency switches. Everything else, depending on how your electrician sets it up, everything else might be off. For instance, all the switches that are extraneous bedrooms you don't need, places that are non-emergency, those circuits may all be off, but the emergency circuits, your furnace, your kitchen that runs your refrigerator, your freezer in the garage, all those would be on. And now this generator out here is going to power that.
That's correct. It's probably safe to transfer each of those individual circuits one at a time once the generator is energized, so that you don't overload the generator all at once with too many appliances or too much power that's being drawn for whatever is on inside the house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So go to that sub panel that is fed by the transfer switch. Make sure all those breakers are off first, then turn them on one by one: freezer, refrigerator, furnace fan, and lights, and then plugs to see that you're doing it safely.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tim, anything in particular about this Champion generator that you like?
Well, it's great. It's a dual fuel generator, which Champion has a great line of dual fuel generators. You can run it on either gasoline or propane.
Oh, that's nice.
This particular one is a fairly highly rated one. In the propane phase, it'll actually feed 7,000, a little over 7,000 watts of power to start appliances, and a continuous 5,600 watts of total appliances.
Yeah, and I like the propane because honestly, if you're running gas on this unit, you're probably gonna have to refill that gas every, 8 hours or so. If you had a big enough propane bottle, a 40-pound bottle out here, the one that's more than twice this size, you could probably go easily 24 hours on a bottle of propane.
Yeah, maybe even 2 days, depending upon how much you load up the generator.
I also like that you can store multiple bottles of propane and there's no fuel stabilizer needed. Whereas if you're storing gas, I hate to store gas honestly longer than 6 months, maybe a year at a max. But if you had some propane bottles like this, in case of emergency, you have 5-6 bottles, you'd be good for several days in case of an outage. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Hey guys, big thanks to Tim for showing us his setup here at the house. And also thanks to Champion Generator for sponsoring today's video. They've got a great lineup of very affordable generators, and I really like these dual fuel models. I'll put a link to the Champion website in the description below. If you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. We've got new content every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on The Build Show. Hey y'all, confessional time. We actually published this video a little over a week ago, and we actually took it down. We got some great comments and some people that said, hey, we made a pretty big mistake on the video, so thank you for pointing that out to us. But Tim and I wanted to kind of tell you what we did in the past and what happened. So Tim, give these guys the brief on what we did.
15 years ago, when this system was actually set up, we created a pigtail that had a range plug on the end of it with a range receptacle on the house. That creates a situation where if someone were to start the generator first, you've got a hot end.
Yeah.
This is the proper end. It's a 50 amp twist lock. That interface with the house is totally safe. If the generator were running and plugged into this, there's no way for anyone to really electrocute themselves.
Yeah. They call it a, what do they call it, a widowmaker or a death cord or something like that. I can't remember. We got a bunch of comments, and I appreciate you saying that. We should not have shown that. Our mistake. Tim and I weren't thinking. He set this up a long time ago, and we should have had this end on it. So thanks for bearing with us, guys. We put this video back up now, Everything's right, everything's safe. And as I mentioned before, I'll put a link in the description to some additional portable generator safety, but hire a licensed electrician to set this up at your house. Don't be foolish and do this yourselves. You need someone who knows what they're doing. These are totally safe if they're set up correctly, but if they're not set up correctly, you could have a problem. And as I mentioned earlier on the backfeeding issue, you know, be really cautious. You'd never want to set these up without a transfer switch, because you could, if the power went back on, backfeed into the grid, and the linesman, somebody down the road, could get electrocuted, not just at your own house. So there's all kinds of horror stories and issues on the internet about doing this wrong. Be smart, do it the right way, you'll have no problems. All right guys, thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you later.